Hi everyone, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I'm broadcasting to you from Central Europe. I am Canadian, originally from West Coast of Canada, Southwest Coast, Vancouver Island, Victoria. Good to see so many students joining in. Good to see you, Kyber, in this class as well. Hi, Pachu. Hi, Algul. Let's get started. All right. As usual, our materials are coming from our websites, aehelp.com for academic IELTS, and for general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. Sahil, good to see you in class. Begzad as well. You'll notice some students' names are coming up in green. They are the members of this channel. Hi, Marwa. Hi, Naveen. I see you have a new avatar, Naveen, looking good. All right. So if you haven't checked out our app yet, go to your Play or iTunes store. Look for this logo. Search for Academic IELTS Help. You can also get our exam books from your Amazon bookstore, AE Helps Academic IELTS or GE Helps General IELTS. Our websites, they look like this. This one's for Academic IELTS. Click that big red button. Do yourself a favor. Get some of the best materials in the world to help you pass IELTS. Join today. If you're a general IELTS student, look for this site with the green background. Click that big red button and pass IELTS more or less painlessly. All right. If you have questions, comments, concerns, let me know. Adrian at aehelp.com. That's my email. Danny from Japan. Good on you. Thanks for becoming another supporting member. Danny, send me an email to this address so I can hook you up with our member perks. Our members get our 6 exams that we use in this class. So make sure to do that, Danny, and welcome aboard. All right. Today we are looking at this type of task 2. To what extent do you agree? Often students ask, how do I answer this kind of question? To what extent do you agree? It's a little bit tricky. So no worries, we'll look at that today. Tomorrow, we'll focus on some reading strategy. Of course, that's for the academic IELTS. Hi, Rambo. Good to see you. Danny, there you are, showing up in green already. Excellent. And then members chat. So Danny, you can request for members chat classes as well now. Okay. Here's the schedule for next week, and here is our task 2 question for today. Hello everyone. Hi Kailas, Campbell. Hi Binder Singh. Let's take a look. Okay, we'll work together. We'll work with each other. My goal is to teach you how to answer any essay, not just this essay. Don't use templates, okay? It's good to learn some phrases, some expressions, of course, but don't use templates for your writing task 2. They don't get high marks. IELTS examiners are very familiar because if 1,000 students are using the same type of words for every paragraph, like firstly, secondly, to begin with, this essay will discuss, IELTS examiners are tired of those kinds of phrases. They read too many of them. So my goal is to teach you not to do that, but to use other useful high-level vocabulary and grammar to get high bands. Let's read. You should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Write at least 250 words. So to get a band 9, even if you have a perfect essay, you need at least 250 words. If you have less than 250 words, you just cannot get a band 9, okay? So this question, hopefully it's a bit interesting and exciting for you today. Some experts argue that solar, gas, wind, and hydropower are inefficient, and the only real solution for electrical supply in the future is nuclear. To what extent do you agree? Give reasons and examples to support your opinion. Okay, so we have to agree to a certain extent or disagree with this statement. What are we talking about? What's the topic here, students? So it's an interesting, exciting question. It's a very important question for humanity. Hi, Mininderjeet. I got all those emails of yours and I replied to most of them. Hopefully you figured out how to get those videos going on the site. If not, don't worry. Send me an email. I can help you further. Hi, Jeffrey. Good to see you in class. All right. Energy. That's right. Jeffrey, for a second there, I thought you were commenting on my energy, but no, you're telling me what the topic is. Yeah, it's power. It's energy, electricity. Absolutely. In fact, if we want to be a little bit more specific on the topic, we can say power supply or energy supply or energy generation, right? So energy supply is even maybe a little bit more specific on that topic. All right, what's the controlling idea? By the way, students, you can see the question anytime. If you forget what it is, it's in the stream description. So if you check your stream description, a little bit easier on a computer than a phone, but the question is there, so you can check it anytime. What's the controlling idea? Of the question. Bagzad, I think you're already jumping ahead and paraphrasing, which is all right. We'll take a look at that in a moment. All right. Yeah, Pachu, you're on the right path. Energy for generating electricity. Absolutely. Okay. Sevgi says, nuclear energy should replace renewable energy in the future. Not quite, Sevgi. It's a little bit off topic. Careful. Notice what it says here. Solar, gas, wind, and hydropower are inefficient. Gas is not renewable energy. Gas is finite, for example, so it wouldn't be the right approach. Controlling idea, Danny says it's types of energy generation. Sahil says producing energy from a nuclear source versus other sources. Okay, Sahil, that would be almost the right controlling idea. So the right controlling idea is nuclear power versus other sources of power. Okay, so let's just group that together. The gas, solar, hydro. Hydro, of course, is water, for those of you who are not familiar with the word hydro. Okay, hydro means water. Okay, so sure, we know what energy supply is, right? It's the source of electricity. Why do we need it? Why do we need electricity, students? It's a good question. Might seem straightforward, but it's a good question. Hopefully, most of you are thinking of what I'm thinking of. Begzad says to see in the dark. You're somewhat right, Begzad, but it's much more than that, right? It's much more than that. To power our machines, which aid and do what? Sahil says, so we can work in the office. Oh, Sahil, I feel for you, brother. I hope that electricity is doing a lot more for you than just allowing you to work in your office. But jokes aside, for a serious reason, Rekha says many purposes. Rekha, you want to be specific though. Yeah, Sahil, there you go. That's a great answer. So to power our machines. That's right. To power our machines, which aid and automate the world around us. Okay? Don't forget, many of those machines are now video. Yeah, somebody says, so we can watch your videos. Gada, absolutely. I was just about to say, we use electricity to power thinking machines, computers, right? And on a funny note, Gada, you're absolutely right. So we can communicate, so we can automate. Yeah, so used for a lot of different reasons. Okay, good. Through our technology, so how? through technology. Let's keep it simple. Okay. Always practice doing this at home when you're getting ready for the IELTS. When you look at a task 2 question, identify what type of question it is, and then break down the topic, the controlling idea, and put it together. Thank you, Mohammed Alawa. All right, so controlling idea, nuclear power versus other sources of power. All right, giving answers is great. So we did a good job giving answers for the question of why power and how power. Students, the other really important part of this technique or this practice skill is generating the questions, okay? So you need to ask the right questions. What would be a good question here? Okay, so we get what is nuclear power, so generating power from breaking atoms, okay, that's fine. Okay, so sure. But the question here is why. What's the full why question? So here I have ... So what would be the why question? Yeah, so Begzad is saying, why would nuclear power be the solutions? Yeah, okay, exactly. So why choose nuclear power? So why is nuclear power a good or bad choice? Now, let's just start with one first. So why is nuclear power a good choice? Yeah, so Vegan Jeffrey, absolutely, you're right. The right question is, why do we need nuclear power as a source of energy? Okay, so Sahil, you're already answering it. Hi, Arcana, good to see you in class. Lot of members. A lot of members in today. Members, send me some requests for this week and the next couple weeks, okay? I want to set up some classes for you, so send me some requests. Yeah, why is nuclear power better than the other types? Danny, absolutely. So why is it a good choice? Because it does not demand a great deal from natural resources. Sure, okay. So give me some more information. So this is where you really want to brainstorm. So Ashish says there's a lot of radiation element that will leave residue. Ashish, that might be a negative. So here we want to stay with the positive. So Navjot says doesn't emit CO2 compared to fossil fuels, right? So Joshi says it's economical and affordable. Okay, maybe cheaper. Yeah, perhaps cheaper. Sure, absolutely. It's possible. Let's see what else you've come up with. So Pranaika says, because nuclear power can supply tons of electricity or loads of electricity to domestic and industrial areas. Labadeep says it's virtually inexhaustible. Denny says it's fairly easy to maintain. Zakra says it's quite renewable. Ashish, we're looking for good. Why is it good? So why do experts believe that it's good? Okay. Pachu says it's cheap and environmentally friendly. Yes, as long as there's no catastrophe, of course. Yeah. So cheap, able to produce enormous amounts of electricity. And think about oil, think about hydro, especially think about solar and wind. Okay, here, I'm going to give you a little bit of help. Think about solar and wind. What is the advantage of nuclear compared to solar and wind? And then we'll get on to our thesis. So Aisha says it's more effective and useful, but you need to tell me what that is. Okay? So what's the advantage particularly for nuclear compared to solar or wind energy? Yes, so Harmeet says it doesn't rely on weather conditions. So you don't need wind to have power. You don't need strong sunshine to have power. And you don't need a lot of space. So and does not rely on weather conditions. All right, so there we have some good points on nuclear power. The reason I chose this question today is because I think a lot of people still believe that nuclear power is very dangerous, and they would be very quick to say, oh, I disagree with the experts because nuclear power is so dangerous and it can cause a lot of damage, et cetera, et cetera. But when we think more critically, more deeply about this question, it does become clear that there are a lot of advantages to nuclear power. There are clear advantages to nuclear power, especially the most recent fourth, fifth, I think there's sixth generation power plants now that are very, very stable and very advanced. They can even withstand earthquakes, other natural disasters. They just shut down, basically. So even if you are a student, okay, and this is an important point here, ladies and gents, start thinking about your thesis statements because that's the next step. But here I want to give you a really important piece of advice. In the IELTS, you are not on a Greenpeace protest. You're not there to change the world. That you can do in university or after you graduate. You are in IELTS to get a high band score, and sometimes it's better to choose the answer that you might not agree with simply because it's easier. So even here, if you think that writing against nuclear power and that you disagree or you agree to a very little extent, it might be easier to take the devil's advocate approach. Devil's advocate means the opposite side of what you believe, and just go with supporting the statement, okay? Because it's easier. So, requires less space, does not rely on weather, and on IELTS, you are there to pass and get a high band score. So choose the easy essay. In this case, strongly agree with the experts. Okay, so for this question, again, the question is in your stream description. Thinking about all of these advantages for nuclear power, it's probably much easier to say that I strongly agree. So the question is, to what extent do you agree? I strongly agree with the expert's opinion that nuclear power is the best solution for the future because, and then you create your points. Write your thesis statements, students. Sahil's asking, what if we partially agree? Sahil, it's okay. You could do a partial agree for this essay because you could say it's a very efficient source of energy, but also can be very dangerous in certain situations. So you could partially agree, Sahil, but I think strongly agreeing in this situation is easier. Sometimes partially agreeing makes a very weak essay. In university, Sahil, professors do not like essays which partially agree because they are weak opinions. And people these days, we just don't care for weak opinions. It's kind of strange to say, but that's the way modern cultures are. Yeah, so I think a lot of you have learned this in your classes, that I partially agree or I somewhat agree. It makes a weak essay. If you can think of some really good points for strongly agreeing when it says to what extent do you agree, I would use I strongly agree with this because, point one, point two. I think it will make a better, stronger, higher band essay than saying I partially agree. Okay, that's my opinion, and I tend to see that that's true for the examiners as well. Okay. All right, Yadav, Tapa, is there a format to write the whole essay? Absolutely. That's what we're going to do right now. Begzod has the thesis statement up. Have a look, students. Begzod is saying, I completely agree with the idea of using nuclear power, not only because it takes up less space to implement, but it is more effective as it works any time of year. Brilliant. Begzod, that's a brilliant thesis statement. You work that into 2 strong body paragraphs, bada bing, bada bang, you're at a minimum. And I know, Begzod, because you send me your essays sometimes, and I know you write strong essays, so you're on path to a 7.5, band 8. It's great. Jeffrey, there we go. I absolutely stand on the same side with the experts and believe nuclear power is the best choice among the others. I think you had a typo there, or a autocorrect. Among the others, because, okay? And then your 2 points, Jeffrey. And the 2 points that Begzod used are excellent, okay? Branakia says there are a few drawbacks using nuclear power plants, such as land and drilling, which, Branakia, should actually not be the case these days, because the most modern nuclear power plants, and I'm not talking about the ones in Japan in Fukushima, but the more modern ones, the 4th, 5th, 6th generation power plants, supposedly are virtually completely fail-proof. Okay, they can't fail. They're 6th generation. There's so many fail-safes that they just simply stop. As soon as there's any kind of seismic activity, the entire system just shuts down. So take a look at that. All right, some other thesis statements coming up. Sahil, I strongly agree with the statement. I consider, not considered, Sahil, I consider that nuclear power is a better source for generating electricity as compared to natural resources. Yeah, natural resources. Welcome, new member, by the way. I saw that. Make sure that you send me an email so I can hook you up with the perks. Okay. That's Harish. Hi, Harish. Welcome aboard. Make sure to send me an email for the perks. Marwa, from my point of view, I strongly agree that nuclear power can be the perfect solution to replace other types of energy sources as it is renewable and efficient. Very good, Marwa. Very good. And then you can break those into 2 body paragraphs. Brilliant. Okay, good job. So some really nice, strong thesis statements. We could take just about any one of those and create a very powerful essay. So let me write a thesis statement for you as well, real quick, and then we'll get into the essay. So, thesis, sure. To what extent do you agree? I agree. I liked what Jeffrey said, because it was a nice expression, Jeffrey. So let's use that. Let's teach that, make sure everybody else remembers it. So I stand on the same sides as the experts and truly believe that nuclear power is the most viable source of energy for the growing population of tomorrow, as it demands little space and creates enormous energy. Okay, so that's what I will go with there. And now I can write my essay. Okay, I have parallel grammar here, demands little space, creates enormous energy. Notice some good use of lexical resource, viable source. Everybody understand the word viable? Maybe one of the viewers can let us know what that means, viable. It's used in business as well. Okay, and this expression, thank you for that one, Jeffrey. That was a good contribution. I stand on the same side as the experts. It means you strongly agree because you stand on the same side. And it is academic, okay? So, we have that. Now we can create our essay starting with the introduction. Absolutely, Danny. That will be, that will be successful, viable. Yes, Danny, it means kind of that. Harish, welcome. Harish has the right answer, a new member. Feasible, it means it's realistic, it's able to exist. It's it can be done. Okay, means viable. Sami Chowdhury, yes, works successfully. Absolutely, it means viable. Okay, so the introduction, students, let's start that off with a good hook. Okay, introduction, 3 parts. Just a quick refresher for some of our newer viewers. It's a hook, a background, and your thesis. Okay, I skipped the paraphrasing bit. Some of you students are probably going, hey, you usually paraphrase that question, don't you? And I did, but just to emphasize some other points, I went a little bit different direction today, but you should, and when you're practicing at home, always paraphrase the question, okay? So, give me a good hook for this. I think you can come up with quite a few different kinds of global interesting facts to grab your reader with this topic because it's a very, very common topic and a common challenge for humanity. Arcana viable can mean profitable if you are in the business context, yes. Okay. Sevgi Rabia says, humanity must decide on which energy supply is better for its own sake. Sevgi, it's a little bit opinionated, but it's a fairly good hook. Okay? Energy is the power that operates every machine in our modern world. That's Marwa. It's a little bit cyclical, Marwa. I might say something like power or electricity is the essence of machines that run our modern world. So a little bit different, Marwa. I would fix that up a bit. It's a little bit awkward. Begzod. Energy has become an important part of human life for the last 2 centuries. Okay, be a little bit more specific there, Begzod. Instead of several centuries, I would say 2 centuries, because really the 20th and 21st century. 19th century, baby steps. Peretti, Jivan Reddy, atomic and nuclear are both different to each other, but atomic has most awful effects where nuclear is almost clean. A little bit off topic. Sahil says, as natural resources produce power are depleting rapidly, the only way left to generate electricity is nuclear. That's a very strong opinion, Sahil. I think, Sahil, I would save that kind of a comment for the conclusion. So I think, Sahil, what you're thinking for the hook is a much better idea for the take-home message in the conclusion. Okay? Vishal, that's a good one. So Vishal Kataria says, energy has become necessary for modern life. I wouldn't even say convenient life, Vishal. I would say necessary for modern human life. Believe me, students, when I say this, if somebody turned off the power tomorrow to our planet, we would be in big trouble. We would not just be losing our convenient way of life, but much of humanity would likely perish within a few months. Okay? Just imagine hospitals stop working. Okay? Just imagine food production without this massive electrical supply. We would be in big, big trouble without electricity. So that is a very powerful hook, okay? Have a look at this one. It's simple, elegant, beautiful. Here's one for you. So hook. Humanity has become reliant on electrical power to sustain life. Okay? That should catch the attention of your reader, all right? Anything that has to do with survival of humanity, okay, will usually catch your reader's attention because one of our prime directives is survival, okay? None of us want to die, and we don't want humanity to perish. So humanity has become reliant on electrical power to sustain life, okay? So now we write the background, all right? Notice how simple that is, all right? There is present perfect in there, which is good. You're showing some complex grammar, but otherwise it's a fairly simple sentence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 words. Average English sentence at a basic level is about 13, 14 words, so this is even less. Okay, it's very simple. All right, background. Okay, why are we talking about this? So definitions and why we are talking about this. Okay, so as a result, people have devised a variety of ways to generate electricity with the use of natural resources and technology. Okay, so that's a little bit of the definition. I wanted to give you that. I don't want to spend time on that. Why is it important? Okay, so why is this question important about using nuclear versus others? So remember the original. Your Salam says nuclear energy plays a major role in our daily needs as it makes life more easier. Your Salam, I think you're into a body paragraph there. In the introduction, we still want to tackle the original question, and this is where jumping the paraphrasing is a little bit of a bad idea. So here we're talking about the argument of using nuclear as opposed to wind and gas. Why is that question important? So why is the question of should we just go for nuclear and start shutting down other kinds of power sources like hydro, oil, gas, and so on? So should we start shutting those down? Why is this question important? Why are we coming to this question now in 2019 and for the last decade or so anyway? Sevgi says the need for alternative energies. Marwa says for environmental conservation. Natural sources are depleting. That's right, Sevgi. That's right, Marwa. That's right, Sahil. Absolutely. Okay. So that's why we're asking this question, because we're running out of other resources and we are damaging the planet. So we really, as nearly 8 billion people, need to find a way to produce electricity without destroying the planet, with minimal carbon footprint, right? So since many of our resources are beginning to deplete and the environment and nature is suffering from our activities, there is a great need to find environmentally friendly power sources that last for generations. Okay. So that's the background. That makes sense. And now all I need to do is take my thesis, copy it, and simply just put it at the end of the introductory paragraph. Okay, so that's your introduction, students. That's how you can now create your essay that's going for a high band. Notice that I'm not using template language. I'm not saying firstly. I'm not saying this essay will discuss the advantages of nuclear power. Those kinds of thesis statements don't get you marks, okay? Think about this, students, when you write for IELTS, okay? And this is, again, remember, this is not a university essay yet. You're writing this for IELTS. Your goal is to get a good mark in IELTS, okay? Keep this in mind when you're writing for IELTS, that you're not just thinking about how not to lose marks. I think a lot of students, especially students that need a band 7 or more, you need to think about not just not losing marks, but you need to think about how do I get marks, okay? It's a very important thought. So especially if you need 7 or higher. Because a lot of you know that, yeah, of course, if you're making a lot of grammar mistakes, if you're making a lot of language use errors, if you're making syntax, structural errors, context, information mistakes, yeah, you're losing marks, okay? Definitely, of course. Don't do that. So always work on not doing that. But that's not enough for those higher bands, because a band 6 is a fluent user. A band 7 is a good user. A band 8 is a very good user, and a band 9 is an expert user. So band 7, a good user, is more than just able to write with clear grammar and good lexical resource. A band 7 or more is someone who can write an original essay, doesn't have to be really special, doesn't have to use very rare words, but it has to be original, clearly original, and not using templates like this essay will discuss the benefits, okay? Danny, can you say something about global warming? You might, but don't go off topic. You might say that gas power or fossil fuel power leads to global warming, as where nuclear doesn't, okay? So back to this important point. Don't just think about how do I not lose marks, okay? It's not like you start, so one mistake I think a lot of IELTS students make in task 1 and task 2, and in the speaking also, is they think that you start with a perfect score. They think you start with 100% and then you make a mistake and you lose a little bit, and then you make another mistake and then you lose a little bit. That's not how the marking works, okay? The marking works by certain criteria. So the IELTS examiners are looking for, is it original? Is the student using good lexical resource? Are they connecting ideas? Is it coherent? Is there cohesion? Okay? Do they answer the task exactly? Their marking is not very different from a college or university professor in a first-year English class, okay, or in a first-year science of some kind, biology or physics, all right? So it's very similar. So don't just think about how not to lose marks, but think, how do I get marks, okay? And you cannot get marks by using template sentences. Now, this introduction will work for you. So humanity has become reliant on electrical power to sustain life. As a result, comma, it's a connection here. People have devised a variety of ways to generate electricity with the use of natural resources and technology. Since many of our resources are beginning to deplete and nature is suffering from our activities, there's a great need to find. Now, I do recommend students not to use the word our and us. I don't like it here, so I'll take it out. There's a great need to find environmentally friendly power sources that last for generations. I stand on the same side as the experts and truly believe that nuclear power is the most viable source of energy for the growing population of tomorrow, as it demands little space and creates enormous energy. Okay? Now, you're ready for body 1, body 2. Okay? Let's get into it. So let's start body 1 with our topic sentence. So body 1 always starts with your topic sentence, which defines your first thesis point. Okay? So define this point for me, students. Demands little space. What does that mean? Okay, if you've ever seen a nuclear power plant, they look pretty darn big compared to a person's house, for example. So why would I be so crazy to say it takes little space? Give me a nice sentence. Yes, Dark Soul, not passing the exam does cost a lot for another one, and that's why we tell students, spend a couple dollars on good materials, okay? So Sahil says, you don't need to cut down trees. Yes, but what are we actually talking about? So I don't think cutting down trees is going to be a good topic sentence. I think we need something a little bit more clear, a little bit more general. Peretti says, because we cannot upsurge the scale of infrastructure to produce electricity. It's not very clear, Peretti. Harish says, comparing to thermal power stations, it takes less space. Okay, so not just comparing to thermal power, Harish, you're on the right track, but comparing to other types of power, right? So Marwa says, unlike wind and solar energy, nuclear power operates in a small space. I would say compared to all other sources of energy, even hydro, okay? Even hydro requires more space to produce the same amount, all right? It's not a bad topic, Arcana. You just have to keep your thoughts simple. So it's relative. And Arcana, you don't need to be a scientist. Your answers don't have to be perfect. They just need to be clear, okay? So it's relative to other sources, all right? So although nuclear power stations are effectively enormous in size, relatively to other forms of electrical generation, they take up much less space. Okay? Again, students, I'm pushing you for a band 9. If you repeat a word like power in this sentence accidentally, sure, it's not the end of the world. You can still get a great score. I'm just really pushing you here, giving you vocabulary whenever I can. Although nuclear power stations are effectively enormous in size, relatively to other forms of electrical generation, let's close that clause. They take up much less space. Vivek, I like yours. It's simple, it's elegant, okay? Less space is, don't forget your be verb, Vivek. Less space is required for nuclear power plants than other types of energy generation, okay? If we use enormous too many times, we should change it. Absolutely, Vivek, or absolutely, Segar. So don't use words too often if they're not needed. So if you have another word for enormous, change it. Okay, so now let's explain this. So, okay, it takes up less than other types. We can give examples, right? So we can explain this by saying solar and wind. So solar and wind energy are considered environmentally friendly, but they take up hundreds of hectares. I'll find out the spelling. Hectares or acres or square kilometers of land to produce nominal amounts of power. Sure, okay, that's fine, and I'm sure many of you will come up with a similar explanation, as the explanation should always follow the topic sentence. But why is that important? So, why is that important? So why is space important? Somebody might say, who cares? Just build a ton of solar or wind turbines. So why is that important? And here I want to engage your critical thinking, okay? Always visualize and think critically. So why does space matter for us at this point in time? Poretti says for bankrolling, I'm not sure. I think that's, yeah, Sahil, nice. Okay, some good thinking there, right? Population in Kento, Yamazaki, very good. It spares the flora and fauna, so the plant and animal life, Kento. Absolutely, okay? Growing population, Sevgi, definitely. I mean, sure, solar, wind, they're great sources of energy, but can we really supply, with current technology, 8 billion people when it demands that much space? I'm no expert, but I would argue not. So since humanity has reached a population of nearly 8 billion people, space for generating power is an extremely important variable to consider if humans are to safeguard flora and fauna. Sure, some nice vocabulary there from Kento. Okay, flora means the plant life on the planet. Fauna means the animal life. All right. Now, notice something else, students, that I'm doing here. I'm including quantitative language. Okay, I always want to bring your attention back to this quantitative language. All right. Notice that I'm using hundreds of square kilometers, 8 billion people. All right. Especially in academic IELTS, quantitative language, again, helps to boost your overall band score. So it's another one of these pieces where you're not thinking about where am I not losing marks, but you're thinking about how do I gain marks? So how do I get marks? Well, you get marks by using qualitative and quantitative language for your explanations, okay? It's much, much better. Let's see some explanations here from students. I noticed that you've written some in, students, which is great. Hussein says, "Sir, I heard from an examiner that writing numbers in letters to add more to add more words is a bad idea. What do you think?" Hussein, the reason I'm chuckling is because to write the number 8 billion, I think, is just as many characters. Okay, but let's count it up. No, there's a rule. It's Hussein, it's a good question, and I'll answer it, but I just want to show you that if I write 8 billion as a number instead of a instead of letters, I'm still ending up with 10, my 3 commas or 3 spaces as well. I have 13 characters, and 8 billion is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So here's an interesting factoid. Writing the word 8 billion and writing the number 8 billion takes the exact same amount of characters. So that's kind of funny. But no, this looks weird in writing, okay? It looks weird to write 8 billion, such a large number. The general rule, students, okay, and this is not me, this is MLA. MLA is the most standard form of English writing, okay? You can Google that. If you're ever curious, students, if you're ever curious about rules in writing, like how do I show numbers or when do I use abbreviations like September and so on, then just search for MLA writing. MLA writing is the most common accepted format in English-speaking countries, okay? So when you have a minute, Google MLA writing, and that will help you for your university studies also, all right? So here's a good little tip for you, all right? MLA, I forget what that stands for. You can look it up. It's an abbreviation, or sorry, an acronym, I believe. MLA writing format is the most common standard in university and business and so on, okay? So Google MLA writing, bookmark it, and learn it. Okay, it's a very, very, very good piece of information to know, MLA writing. Once it's a little bit of a headache in the beginning, but once you learn it and use it, it'll be good, okay? So I think Grammarly, Eunice, uses MLA for most of its correction as well. So MLA writing, Google it. The standard is numbers 0 to 10 are written as words. Okay. Now, beyond that, writing big numbers like million or billions is better as words usually than numbers because they just look awkward in an essay to see all those zeros. Okay. Arcana, you will not be penalized for overwriting. You will be penalized for underwriting. Yeah, thank you, Govin Sani. Govin Sani says, MLA means Modern Language Association. Yeah, I'd never memorized that. Modern Language Association. Okay, so it's a group of people that sit together and discuss, hey, what can we accept, what can we not accept, what looks good, what doesn't. Okay, so Google that. All right, fine. So let's get back to our body paragraph 1. I don't want to lose you here, students. I want to include an example. All right, let's get an example in there. For instance, this is our example. Okay, your example should be specific. For instance, one standard 5th generation power plant can produce the same amount of energy as 20,000 wind turbines taking up 5,000, I'm just making this up, okay, 5,000 square kilometers of land. Arcana, we're at about 190 words now, near the end of our second body paragraph. And if you're going for a band 9, this is about right, okay? So your total essay for the whole essay should be around 300, 320 if you're going for a band 9, okay? Begzod, you don't need the personal example here. That's what I was going to get to. You can do the first person in the connection here, Begzod. Okay. So now I want to transition, or I want to go smoothly into my body paragraph 2. And here I should remember the original question. So I'm going to help you out here, students, but remember my voice. Remember this lesson if you get this on your next IELTS exam, because this is a very important part of this essay to make it a high band. Remember the question is, and for those of you that missed it, it's in the stream description. The original question is, to what extent do you agree? Give reasons and examples to support your opinion. Okay? Verinder, you should have a variety of grammar, but make sure you're using it well. Avoid jumping around with your tenses, Verinder. That's really bad. You don't want to jump around with your tenses. Should be mostly present tense, so using present simple, continuous, progressive. Okay, don't jump to the future. Connecting sentence here, okay? So what would be a good connecting sentence? And okay, Rekha, no, don't put your my new power plant was established, or you could say in my city a new power plant was built. That's okay, Rekha. You could take that direction, but in your connection, Himanushu, how much vocabulary should one use to get a 6.5? It's hard to say, but you shouldn't have a lot of word repetition. It should be clear that you have a vocabulary base of about 2,000 words. Okay, that doesn't mean you use 2,000 words, Himanshu, but I should be able to figure that you know roughly 2,000, 2,500 words in English. Doom Faith, it's not that bad, the topic. You just need to keep it simple, okay? So your connecting sentence, students, we're still looking for the connecting sentence here. Remember the original question, to what extent do you agree, okay? And remember what you said in the introduction. You said that you stand on the same side as the experts. So what should I do here for my connection? Okay, keep it simple. It's not complicated. It just has to be a simple thought here. Okay, relate back to what you stated in your thesis, in your connection. Okay, we're not starting body 2 yet, Sahil and Sagar, so we don't need moreover. You don't need to corroborate the example, food stories. You don't need to move further yet, Herminder. You just need to say something like, this is one of 2 reasons that I am in strong agreement with the professionals, okay, instead of experts. So this is one of 2 reasons that I'm in strong agreement with the professionals, and you can finish it with a little bit more, that nuclear power is the way of the future. Okay, and then you can start body 2 with the second reason, right? So All right, so that's body one. Have a look at how smoothly that flows. So let's just go from the thesis of the introduction. I stand on the same side as the experts and truly believe that nuclear power is the most viable source of energy for the growing population of tomorrow, as it demands little space and creates enormous energy. Although nuclear power stations are effectively large in size, because as a student says, we shouldn't have enormous since we just used it. Large in size, relatively to other forms of electrical generation, they take up much less space. Solar and wind energy are considered environmentally friendly, but they take up hundreds of square kilometers of land to produce nominal amounts of power. Nominal means not a lot. Since humanity has reached a population of nearly 8 billion people, space for generating power is an extremely important variable to consider if humans are to safeguard flora and fauna. For instance, one standard 5th generation power plant can produce the same amount of energy as 20,000 wind turbines, taking up 5,000 square kilometers of land. This is one of two reasons that I'm in strong agreement with the professionals that nuclear is the way of the future. Okay? That is a band 9 level response. Extremely strong cohesion. The structure is very well designed. And very importantly, the wording and the information clearly is answering the original question of to what extent do you agree that nuclear power supply is the way for the future instead of solar, gas, wind, hydro, and so on. All right? So that's what you need to do. Now, I believe you can do it, so I'm going to leave the second body paragraph for you for homework, okay? And the conclusion as well. So second body paragraph is efficiency. If you feel there's a better second body paragraph, by all means, I challenge you, give a different opinion. You can. You could write a third or fourth as well. So you don't have to stay with mine. Just make sure you do it. Send it to me by email, and I'll give you a score estimate for your body paragraph 2 and your conclusion, okay? It's good homework exercise for you. Review the introduction, review body 1, write body 2 and the conclusion for me. Send it to me at adrian@aehelp.com. Danny from Japan, you are most welcome. Everybody watching around the world, it has been my pleasure to teach you today, bring you this information and this lesson. Harminder is asking an important question and says, in addition to the above, can we start with this? No, Harminder, don't. Don't use sentences that describe the location of your writing in the essay. That's awkward, saying what I wrote below or above. All right, girls and guys, thank you so much. Remember, check us out on our website, gieltshelp.com. Click that red button, join it, so you don't have to pay for another expensive IELTS exam. If you're doing academic IELTS, this blue website, aehelp.com. Click that big red button. You'll spend a couple dollars, but not a couple $100, okay? So check us out there and join. Tomorrow we're doing academic reading. Much love to all of you. Have a great day. Lots of energy, lots of exercise, good sleep if it's late in your country. Wake up tomorrow full of energy and start from then. Bye for now.